Alright everybody, this is going to be our Snowmageddon video for our one variable statistics unit. I'm going to run through the notes. This will help you with the rest of your packet. If you have questions, send a remind to your teacher or an email or whatever you need to. Feel free to pause the video as you go if you need to catch up with taking notes. Alright, so first we're just going to run through some vocabulary. So hopefully you know these already. This should be mostly a review. We'll see how it goes. First one, the mean is the average of the data set. And you find that by adding up all the values and dividing by the number of data points. All right, one of the things we're going to talk about this year in more detail than what you've done before is the concept of outliers. And so outliers are numbers that are different from everything else, way off to the sides, either lower than everybody else or higher than everybody else. And your average is affected by outliers. Now the other measure of center is your median, and that is the one that's just your middle number. And you guys know this, but if you don't have a middle number, if you have an even number of points, you find the two middle ones, you add them up and you divide by 2. So previous to this year, you have done all of that by hand. Good news is you've got the calculator instructions on the front of this packet, so you know what you need. You can use either your TI-83, 84, or you can use Desmos to help you figure all of these out instead of having to do it by hand, which makes your life much easier. And your median is not affected by outliers. So no matter how big the number is, or your maximum, or how small your minimum is, it's not going to change your median. Your median is still your middle number no matter what. All right, so those are measures of center. Next up is measures of spread. That's exactly what it sounds like, how far spread out the data is. That's what it's a measure of. So the first one is the range, and it's the difference between your maximum and your minimum numbers in your data set. And that one is affected by outliers. If your big number gets super big compared to everything else, that's going to change your range. It's going to make your range larger. The interquartile range is the same thing, except it's following your quartiles. So it's the difference between the third quartile and the first quartile. So your quartiles are when you took your data and you cut it up into fourths. And the first chunk, that first fourth, was your first quartile. The second chunk was your median, third chunk is your third quartile, and your fourth chunk is your maximum. And your interquartile range is not affected by outliers because odds are your outliers aren't in your, not odds are, they won't be part of your first and third quartile. They won't be affected by that. And then the last measure of center is standard deviation. That is one that you guys have not dealt with before. There is a crazy formula. Luckily for you guys in Math 1, you don't have to memorize it. You can just let the calculator do it for you. But it's the standard deviation is the average amount that the values differ from the mean. All right, so we've got two sets of vocab, measures of center and measures of spread. The next one I know you guys know already, it's skew. And so that's how your data is skewed. All right, so your data can be affected by relatively large numbers or small numbers, so those are your outliers. And if you have small outliers, that would be to the left of your data, so it would be skewed left. And actually, we don't need that. So as you skewed your data to your left, large outliers will skew your data to your right. And distribution can also be normal, which is symmetrical. You may have heard one of your teachers talk about a bell curve before. That's what they're talking about. That's a normal distribution. So when you're looking at the skew of data, the shortcut is look for the tail, because the tail is where the outliers are. So over here, the tail is to the left, so this is skewed to the left. And the second example, it's skewed to the right. Oh, sorry, let me slide that up. And then your third example, a little hard to see, this is the one that's symmetrical. It's the same on the left or right, And so that's a normal distribution. In Math 2 and in Math 3, you're going to get into more detail when it comes to normal distributions and percents that go along with that. But for right now, you just need to be able to recognize it. All right, so we've talked about measures of center, we talked about measures of spread, and we've talked about how skewing your data left or right, or no skew at all, so it's normal. All right, then we're going to talk about 5-number summary, which you guys have done, just maybe forgot that vocabulary term. So your minimum is the smallest number in the data set. All right, and your Q1 is the median of the smallest half of the data. Your median, which is your Q2, your second quartile, that is the middle number in a set of data. Q3 is the median of the larger half. And your maximum is the largest number in a data set.